The cold and unforgiving world of Tarkov and the Norvinsk region has a certain way of drawing us in. The people and stories of Tarkov are fascinating, addicting, and perplexing, but in the background of it all is the setting we find ourselves in, the maps and areas that we explore and travel through. You may know these areas like the back of your hand, but for others, they may be completely new and unfamiliar. Regardless of how much time you spent in Tarkov, let's take a little time to slow down and explore the handcrafted environments that tell stories of a broken down society and where ordinary people have turned into savages in the name of survival, and where the world they once lived and thrived in has turned into the apocalypse. Shoreline. The southernmost area in Tarkov, characterized by its thin strips of sandy beaches and sparsely wooded inland areas. To the west lies the lighthouse location, and in the opposite direction is the port terminals. Just north of the shoreline is the reserve base, which can be accessed with proper climbing equipment via a rocky cliff face, and the communications dome can be visible from many parts of this area. The shoreline area played a critical role in the events that lead up to the disaster in Tarkov. And while clues and evidence of the evacuation and ongoing investigation into the Terragroup Corporation are abundant, by exploring this area, there are just as many questions as there are answers. We start our journey at the collapsed tunnel. This tunnel connects the shoreline to the lighthouse, and from here, travelers could enter or exit the greater Tarkov area. Just outside the tunnel opening, the road bifurcates to a short northbound passage leading to a small hamlet. This tiny village was likely inhabited by old Norvinsk people who settled this area long before Tarkov City ever existed. There's no doubt that during more peaceful times, after emerging from this tunnel, vacationers and residents would be greeted by a beautiful view of the sea and rolling wooded hills. At some point during the evacuation of Tarkov, with buses and evacuees still moving towards the ports, the tunnel entrance was sabotaged with high explosives from above. The flow of traffic had grinded to a halt at a small UN checkpoint just outside the tunnel opening, possibly checking evacuees for Terragroup personnel attempting to blend in. Raining concrete and twisted steel girders atop any vehicles unlucky enough to be caught in the blast, what few emergency vehicles in the area that were available were dispatched to the scene. During the rescue operation, a local criminal gang attacked the roadblock and any remaining survivors. Heading east, a large shipping vessel connects the shore to a tiny island where fishers have erected a crude settlement. It's unlikely that this ship ran aground in this position naturally, and due to its corrosion and how deeply settled into the sands of the beach it was likely pushed into this position long ago, possibly to serve as a tourist attraction. At some point, unknown agents conducting surveillance on USEC activities in the region spotted USEC personnel conducting clandestine operations from within the hull of this beached vessel and sending encrypted transmissions from within. What those transmissions contained and what USEC were doing here is still unknown. Back on the main road, a sign advertises one of the main points of interest in the area: the Azure Coast Health Resort. Turning left onto this dirt road, the normally scenic drive to the resort has been interrupted by some high-end housing that is new to the area. One cottage is in the beginning stages of construction, while two others are in a mostly finished state. With international money flooding the Tarkov area, those who are opposed to city life may have desired to create their own scenic oasis. One curious observation about these cottages is the inclusion of a wide variety of planters, greenhouses, and a hayfield. So much so that it dominates much of the available real estate on these plots. We can only assume that whoever's decided to settle here had the intention of growing their own crops and valued privacy, as each cottage is fully enclosed by 2-meter-high metal privacy fences. Continuing down the dirt road, motorists would experience a short but pleasant drive that increased slightly in elevation and offered scenic views of the rolling hills. Passing the parking and bus terminal on the right, now traveling on cracked pavement that has fallen into disrepair, the Azure Coast Health Resort comes into full view ahead. Powered by a small hydroelectric power station located on the nearby river, this health resort, or sanitarium, used to be a retreat for those seeking rest and relaxation. Not to be confused with sanatoriums in the West, which are usually permanent homes for the mentally insane. Sanatoriums in Russia offer a myriad of healthcare and relaxation services for those seeking a vacation or to heal the body and mind. Since Terragroup personnel and their USEC muscle have taken over the place, constant battles have taken place here, along with a lack of maintenance, have transformed this site from a place of healing to a place of death. In more peaceful times, this facility had it all. In the central administration building, where new visitors would also be checked in, was located a full-size movie theater, a cafe, and upstairs near the offices is a small meeting hall which was sometimes used for live music performances. On the main floor of the east and west wing, doctors' offices and equipment for all types of services and therapies now sits in either a state of complete disarray or bunched together to provide obstacles and cover. Visitors once enjoyed services such as hydrotherapy, psychiatric counseling, acupuncture, spa treatments, and even dental work. When Terragroup personnel and USEC forced everyone out of the building, they turned this facility into a staging ground for the evacuation of sensitive materials and high-ranking individuals. Its hallways and rooms are now congested with the equipment of war rather than the tools for healing. Eventually, Terragroup personnel were either evacuated, killed, or scattered deeper into the Tarkov mainland. But one crucial Terragroup employee stayed behind long after the stranded remnants of USEC began to disband and fend for themselves. His real name is unknown, but he's known as the Sanitar. Once a high-ranking medical practitioner in the Terragroup Corporation, a stolen flash drive from the underground lab has revealed that he has conducted experiments of various drug concoctions on live human subjects. He has made a new life for himself here on the Shoreline, providing medical services to the scavs and survivors of the area. Some believe that he is seeking penance for whatever he did to those people in the laboratory. Outside and to the north, the grounds were once carefully manicured and dotted with numerous places to rest and enjoy the outdoors. And further north, a walking trail marked with hand-carved statues of animals that leads hikers to a river outlook or a winding trail that takes them to a water feature near a natural rock formation, before circling all the way around the resort. Leaving the resort and heading back to the Shoreline, a gas station is ablaze where scavs attempted to make a small outpost, most likely set aflame from a carelessly placed cigarette. At this intersection is yet another military checkpoint that now sits abandoned, the lead vehicle knocked out from what may have been an anti-tank weapon fired from a squad of USEC, attempting to break through to the port to evacuate Terragroup executives. To the right, a boat launch is now the scene of death, as scavs have taken over these docks and claimed the lives of several of Therapist's medical team, sent to investigate the area. Heading further down the road looms one of the strongest defense perimeters set up by the Russian military. Watchtowers, concertina wire, landmines, and cautionary signage make it abundantly clear to anyone approaching this blockade. If you choose to proceed, you do so at your own peril. Personal vehicles and buses that were full of evacuees now sit abandoned and empty. In some areas, trees have been cut down or pushed over, possibly to provide more visibility for machine gunners and snipers in the towers. But as we saw in Raid Episode 5, at some point this strong point was overtaken by Black Division operatives, who most likely used a horde of scavs as a diversion. And finally, the swamp. Another reminder of how the old life was, before international money started flooding into the area. At one time, this little village was inhabited by fishers and farmers. Accustomed to the simple life, the influx of tourists and the noisy nearby construction disrupted their traditional lifestyle, and one by one, they abandoned their homesteads for the countryside. But even though nature threatens to reclaim this land in the form of new wetlands, there are new residents that now reside here. They go by many names. the ghosts of Tarkov, the insane, or simply the cult. These godless worshippers have witnessed the world unraveling around them and see it as a sign of the end times. And they, as shepherds of the apocalypse, they do not worship any gods, nor do they pray to any deity. They instead worship the anarchy and death all around them, offering weapons and the spilling of human blood as sacrifice. If you choose to travel the swamp after starfall, you will not see or hear them coming. But they are there, watching you, waiting to sink their poison blades into your back as a test to see if you are worthy. And if you decide to fight back instead of join them or become a sacrifice, they will pass judgment on you as they see fit. At some point in the future, Shoreline's role will be critical in the life and travels of your PMC. You will have to travel through this area to reach areas such as the lighthouse, customs, and the port terminals, and possibly the reserve base. Each time you pass through this area, you can reflect on just how close to escaping Tarkov you are, and just how close the evacuees were. And when the sun starts to dip beyond the horizon to the west, you'd best get back to your hideout quickly, because when the moon comes out on the shoreline, this area truly becomes an apocalypse.